I have in my mind the image of a severed head on a platter, a man's head, on a woman's platter. She stares at it, now hers. I found such a woman in Salome, a play by Oscar Wilde from 1894, with original illustrations by Aubrey Beardsley. Going back even further, Salome originates from a biblical myth, and Wilde is a sly mythmaker himself. Written hastily in French one night in 1891, Wilde's play was the culmination of his obsession with the figure of Salome. Imagine a young girl of 14 or 15, a bejeweled princess with gilded amber eyes and a sensuous female body, holding a silver platter with the severed head of a man, whose dead lips she kisses with boundless passion. Wilde was overwhelmed by the figure of Salome. She consumed his thoughts. He imagined women walking in the streets as the princess and gazed at jewels and rare fabrics in shop window displays, dreaming of them adorning Salome's body. He eagerly studied paintings and books in which the object of his interest appeared. By the time Wilde came to write his play at the close of 1891, his knowledge of the character was immense. The plot of Salome is simple, but the message is entangled in a web of sexual politics, biblical symbolism, and censorship history. Wilde described his titular character as a woman dancing with bare feet in the blood of a man she has craved for and slain. Salome is a teenage princess of Judea who represents the Antichrist, a dancing, commanding atheist from whom none can look away. She rejects God and indulges in so-called perversity. Indeed, the entire play is uncompromisingly atheist. Above all, Salome prizes pleasure, and the object of her lust is John the Baptist, the very prophet who baptized Jesus. She gazes upon him and extols the visual pleasure of his body, his white skin, his black hair, and his red lips, which she vows to kiss despite his urgent rejection of her. As a vessel, Salome contains multitudes. She is both virgin and seductress, chaste and lustful. Her innocence is not lost, but given forcefully. She plays to win, and her poker face is impenetrable. Salome morphs and contorts depending on her nascent cultural moment. Spanning from 1906 to now, there are at least 37 depictions of Salome on film, not to mention operas by such musical giants as Strauss, theatrical performances, and many paintings dating back thousands of years to Salome's biblical debut. Each new cinematic venture tries to capture the elusive Salome, like grasping moonbeams, and her persona fluctuates with the moral codes of the time. Wilde aligns Salome with the moon, a symbol of woman's constantly changing nature. The medical discourse of the pathological female available at the time provided the rest of the context for her demonization. Salome was seen from the start as the hysteric, the necrophiliac, or simply, given the text's obsession with the moon, the menstruating, pubescent woman, medically connected with loss of control, mobility of emotion, increased sexuality, and a penchant for violence. As one gazes at the moon, so too men gaze at Salome, and Salome gazes back. Her gaze targets the imprisoned prophet, John the Baptist, for whom she has an immediate, eternal lust. She promises him, "I shall kiss your lips, John the Baptist. I shall." Most importantly, with these 19th century versions of the story, we witness the insertion of the gaze itself into the discourse, producing a kind of unconscious revelation of the power and anxiety of seeing Salome. Pleasure for the male eye becomes the terror of the word turned back upon itself. Her body is the site of the dance and also the object of the gaze of power which absents itself from the object it views. In 1918, Salome is portrayed by Theda Bara, her dark eyes heavily lined in kohl as she gestures silently and regally. She is not much of a dancing Salome, but a figure nonetheless. Nazimova's 1923 Salome, which she independently produced and starred in, is exquisite and surreal. The design of the costumes and sets emulate the Art Nouveau style of the original illustrations of Aubrey Beardsley. Nazimova, a closeted queer woman, injects her film with gender play through gesture and costuming. Involved in every level of the production, Nazimova collaborated closely with costume designer Natasha Rambova, also known to be her lesbian lover. She is a commanding, beautiful, and slyly perverse Salome. Rambova's visual design amounts to a full collaboration in the film's aesthetic and in its unmistakable homoeroticism. Salome is early Hollywood decadence self-consciously rendered. At the center of the plot lies The Dance of the Seven Veils, a creation of Wilde's as a stage direction without any further elaboration. A drunken King Herod, stepfather to the princess, gazes lustfully at Salome, despite his wife forbidding it. His gaze tries to penetrate her. He demands she dance and that in exchange he will give her anything, even half his kingdom. A smiling heretic, Salome obtains her prize by agreeing to his promise, knowing secretly her desired reward, and erotically she performs the dance. In stark contrast to 1923's version, 1953's Salome stars an ill-cast, blonde Rita Hayworth. Due to the strict censorship of the Hays Code, the film is extremely tame. This watered-down Salome is disappointing, as Hayworth is not convincing as a seductress nor as an atheist. Soon followed 1961's King of Kings, starring Bridget Breslin, who brings a seduction that Hayworth lacks. Breslin dances with a smoothness and sexuality, and her demand for the head is defiant.
What can you want with the head of a man?
I want to look at it.
By 1961, the strict morality of the Hays Code was crumbling under the cultural pressure of the burgeoning free love movement. In the 1970s, numerous international directors, from Pedro Almodovar to Clive Barker, created cinematic adaptations of Salome, and this kept pace in the ensuing decades. In 1988, British director Ken Russell released Salome's Last Dance, despite the lead actress, Imogen Millais Scott, having gone blind just before shooting. I find her performance magnetic and impish, perhaps my favorite Salome. The film is very true to the play in plot and dialogue, while remaining extremely inventive. Russell's production design is a colorful menagerie of exuberant theatrics, coded BDSM imagery, and metatextual references, including an Oscar Wilde look-alike. But what becomes of young Princess Salome? After her dance, she demands the severed head of John the Baptist on a silver platter. She gets her prize, this thing, now in her possession, and she kisses the lips of the dead man. This transgression is too far for the king and his court, who bow to God and to Caesar. Salome bows to no one. He orders her executed as she announces, "The mystery of love is greater than the mystery of death." Without a doubt, Oscar Wilde's play of Salome can be seen as one of the most significant highlights of the 19th century, both dedicated toward a re-evaluation of the historical legend and articulating a new sensibility for the future.